Well, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? You know what this is. You know what this is. You tuned in. You know what this is. You know where we at right now. CorNbReaD Season 3 on lock, boom. Okay? This is where it's at, right? I'm here with my bros, Dr. Hip, Bro Kurt, and we got some sweet, salty goodness that's about to be right on time for your life and your situation. Now, if you haven't subscribed, I mean, we about to fight at this point in time in the game, right? So go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join the CorNbReaD family. Get your cornbread and your mind ready because we are about to get into this stuff here. If you're not following us, take your time out. Follow us. Follow us. We would love to hear from you guys. We love to get your feedback. So follow us at CorNbReaD. You can follow us on the website, CorNbReaD.com, at CorNbReaD on Facebook, and also on Instagram. Now, let's get into this cornbread.
Let's get into this cornbread. I like that you said you want to fight them. They're not following us at this point.
I'm in this right now. I'm ready to throw hands a little bit.
Primarily, like, if you're not following us, it's your loss. Because this free talk therapy we're giving right now in these 30 minutes that we have is literally our mandate. So we're going to keep doing this. Whether you show up to the bread house or not, we're going to keep doing this. So
get your free now.
You might as well come get in tune to it. Because again, we're going to keep giving it. And we really want this to impact, legacies and lives and homes and mindsets and thought processes and circumstances, really. So, yeah, eat more cornbread.
Eat more cornbread.
I wanted to start with that tonight. Eat more cornbread.
Eat more cornbread.
Because again, it's salty, it's sweet, and it's right on time.
Well,
I mean, enough said. That's all I got. But you said new episode.
New episode. Speaking of cornbread, sweet and salty goodness right on time. We got some right on time goodness for you. So,
I got something.
Well, go ahead.
Let's talk about resiliency.
Resiliency.
I'm gonna give us a definition so everybody understands.
Please. I got to club, man.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep it real simple. Resiliency for us is things get hard, I keep going. How? How do we resilient?
How do we resilient?
I like that, bro.
How do you resilient?
How do you resilient? Hashtag, how do you resilient?
How do you resilient?
Because we've had to, right?
Right.
We talk about our experience. We black men. We live in the States. We've had to be resilient. We have systems against us, and we have to figure out a way to navigate that. Yeah, it's gonna get hard, brother.
Yeah, you're in there.
I said systems.
Can we stop there for a second, please?
That's later. We can talk about that later. We can talk about the 15-minute mark.
You talk about resiliency, though, bro.
Yeah.
So recently, y'all might have been hip to this, like, and no slight to any other communities outside of African American communities, but this came up. I was watching the Instagram video that Amanda Seals?
Right.
Anyway, she was really talking about how they just passed legislation for Asian Americans with this whole big thing about no hate and so forth, right? And she was making real good sense about how the African American community partners so quickly and well with others when our community still stays oppressed and there's no legislation written for us. And I was like, well, as much as gray area I wanted to dance into that, she's talking. She's talking because how so quickly? How so quickly? You talk about resiliency, and I needed to go there for a second because
we know why. But
we do know why, but we're talking about it now.
Like
she was talking about it, and I was following this narrative of like, you mean to tell me that system, whatever it is, even if I didn't buy into before of like, oh, y'all detrimental, y'all determinate, I could not avoid it. I was like, that wasn't even 2 months of the hate that was being spread and how it became a movement, and then you put a law in that if you do something to these people, something's going to happen to you. And we, as black people, have been struggling with simply due process. Call me by my name.
Well,
don't push me out the street in my lane.
Right.
Forget a hate, lynch, whatever crime. Like, we don't have nothing documented, as it's never been cared about. So for me, when we talk about resiliency, I needed to sit in that for a second and say, for as much as I might have actually subconsciously avoided this or suppressed it, because again, I'm trained to do that for my survival, to be resilient, right? I needed to get back into that for a second and say, well, I'll be damned. Like, what do I do with that? Like, because that actually happened.
How exactly would you do with that? Take another step back and look at the progress we've had in spite of not getting legislation.
No.
You see, that's what persistence is. That's what resilience is. Resilience is, in spite of the fact of the hate that's been put on us for generation after generation, and we still see no outcomes, and we can look at somebody who got abused maybe a couple of minutes and they get legislation, they get new rights, new everything. It doesn't happen with us. We still have to persist because we can't be salty about it, because we got kids to raise too. We got to tell them how to get through this too.
So let me add something to this. Right? I think if we're really going to understand resiliency, then we have to understand what drives resiliency. And what drives resiliency is trial, is struggle, is oppression, right? Is weight, right? Yeah. You're talking about the power of resiliency, the power to endure, the power, the stamina to keep going. In order to endure, you have to be put in a situation where you have to endure something.
That's right.
You know, there's no way around it. Like, I mean, I wish there was. Somebody give me the key if you can't find it. But there's no way around it, right? And so with that, you will find yourself, everyone will find themselves in a situation where you're in a certain set of circumstances that you have to endure, and they make it harder, but it's building. Just like going to the gym.
I'm going to get political.
I'm going to lift the weights.
Real quick.
Please, because I'm already there.
One line of political... that community has a whole lot more capital and can move a whole lot more votes. The reason why we don't have that is we're poorer now than we were right after slavery. I'm not going to get into too many stats there. We have less capital now. They have more capital. The reason why they have legislation is because they have that capital. And we don't have to get into a conversation about capital, but we're going to get into the conversation of what we do despite knowing that they got more capital and we still got to exist. We still got to exist.
To your pivot, let me be very clear. To your pivot about persistence and resiliency, it's just like, I wanted to bring that up to communicate that. Because again, for us, we have emotions, we have actions, we have a lot of other things that we do besides talking about it. And I want to talk about it very, very directly. Because again, I want to show the power of communicating and my frustration with that. At the same time, don't get it twisted now. To your point, resiliency is what my DNA knows how to do. That's what I come from. So
where we come from.
I think that's what we do when we know that. Like, the legislation got passed for a group of people to be saved or safe. That doesn't change anything about how I see the world and how I feel about myself. My conflict with it is that I have to always do something different because of resiliency, because of what was laid out there in terms of our people, if you will, because of everything Kurt said, of where we may rate on that totem pole to be able to get the access. Because we don't have the community of access, if you will, intentionally. My word from a few seasons ago, intentionality, we don't have that. We have to go on the notion of our DNA will propel us, because that's what we've done.
You give me a question now, and what you just said, and never really thought about this now until right now. Do you see it as a healthy resilience and unhealthy resilience? Because of what you're saying is, and I'm glad you said what you said actually, about resilience being a part of my DNA. I have this set of DNA, and this is the set of circumstance. I have to respond this way. But the healthy aspect is this, I need to actually acknowledge how I feel about it. Because sometimes we are so resilient that we're in an unhealthy portion of resilience, if you will, that we just are trying to survive or pushing forward, but we're lost as a people. You're lost emotionally,
or
lost mentally.
Or ignoring. Mostly ignoring, because ignoring it eliminates the emotion, the pain, the things that connect our voices without even speaking words, because we know what's going on. Like, I think I started with that comment because I was feeling that stuff inside, like, we know the obvious. But in my present day time, do I just accept the obvious? Because I know better. And I know all the things you said as well, like, as truth. Those things are true. Like, all of this stuff's a facts, but it's almost, you get back to the place of like, what do I do differently about this? How do I support the difference, and how do I communicate that? Part of it is like, it ain't right, but then there's capital, then there's community, and there's intentionality on a people that they're like, we're going to make sure that this is right by us. Then it's a bigger question now, right? What do we do as a people, Black people, to ensure that we make things right by us? If it's not capitalist based, to ensure that we move forward for things like legislation to be put in place for us in our protection.
I got an answer for that.
And there it is.
I got an answer for that.
Yes.
I think I said it in an episode or two, maybe last season. We don't need to beat our chests. We need a caucus. See, what we need to do in order
Don't we have a caucus?
Oh, this is kind of one.
No, do we have like a congressional black caucus?
We need everybody to be involved in that. Don't we have one? Is the question you say? No, we should be like, I know who's involved in the congressional black caucus.
And there it is.
You see, that's the difference though. See, we are on islands, and even if I got thousands of friends on social media, we've already determined that only thing I'm sharing with them is what I want them to see. Now, the real community, the real discussions that we have with each other, that's what helps you build resilience. I can be as hard as I need to be alone, but I won't be able to see what I can't see. My brothers will be able to see what I can see. We'll be able to see my blind side. So when there's an adverse occurrence that comes, and I need to grow in a way that maybe I can't even see, my community can say, hey, here's an opportunity for you to grow, and I'm presenting this to you because maybe you have the capacity to grow in that. And the community has saw that. Now I can get through that adverse occurrence and not take an L. So resilience is, I can see an L coming, I can see something happening, I can push through. Maybe I do take that L, but the L isn't a stop. The L is a lesson. That's all, the only thing that L stands for, just a lesson. So resilience is taking your L's and not making that same mistake again. So that's where I am.
I have another question for you. How do I remain resilient without burnout? Right?
Yeah.
Because you can only I would say
you gonna take?
I mean,
How many L's you
I can only take
I'm
so
just
many
asking questions over here, like how many?
It depends on how you learn.
Well,
How many lessons you need to learn to know if you need to shift or pivot. We talked about pivoting. We talked about it.
that's right.
Sometimes you got to run into a wall to know it's a wall there, and then you need to pivot.
I got the lesson. Then what?
Okay.
Then like what? Because we got to get into some steps, because resiliency is like one acquisition on self-awareness and self-actualization.
That's right.
And understanding that I'm in a position to endure.
Yeah.
L's, right? Boom. Like L's is not just loss, it's lessons, right?
It's lessons.
But at the same time, when I've built up my wheelhouse of lessons, how do I employ these lessons? Do they dart out? Do we strategize? X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm going to keep bringing it back to what I opened up with, which was like, that's a real thing that happened. And it happened very fast. And I feel like as a people, we've been at this race of endurance and resiliency for forever as a part of our narrative. So my questions are like, is it just DNA that we do it?
Take a
or
step back
do we
and
actually
treat yourself differently from them. They need that. We don't need that.
What do we need?
You know what we need? And man, it's
I'm
evidence.
I'm with you.
Oh,
But
it's
we
evidence.
say what we need. What we need?
Say each other only each other. And any district, and I keep speaking political. Any district where you see we stick together, we move legislation. Now, I'm from a place where we didn't stick together, and what happened there is we got plundered. We had houses and we didn't have houses because we changed what we regarded as valuable from homes to high. You see, we didn't have each other. We didn't have a community to say, that's not the way you get through this. That's not the way you get through a government trying to destroy you. You don't get through it by getting high. You get through it by getting hard. You get through it by getting strong. And we can help each other do that. Now, when I'm on my own, though, I get through time by the way I know how to do it. I'm filled with advice because I'm just trying to pass time. But when I'm with y'all can look at me and say, hey, we're actually not on that advice right now. So what we need is each other. What I need is more of us.
Well, then, let me speak to that, because I think that's you're speaking to something, the aspect of community and the responsibility that comes with the community. And I think that one answers about being recharged. Because when you are on your own and you're trying to do something, you're boxing on your own, you can get tired, right? But there is a true refreshing that comes when you are connected to other people and other faces. When you realize you're not running or boxing for yourself, right? But you're also now boxing. One can chase 1,000, two can put 10,000 to flight, right? When we are a community together, when we are a community together, there's a greater force, there's a greater power that comes behind it. And the problem is, we have been, as a community, we have been fragmented because we have been, and honestly, that's, speaking of systems, It was made that way to make us fragmented so that we would pin each other against each other, right?
right.
So let's heal as a community, right? Come back to that space and pick ourselves up. And as we talked about before, there are spaces and times, epics and seasons, which we have gotten it right, where we have gotten that space. And if we were to come together again, then we can have that. We can build that. And there can be a greater resilience, because when I do get weak, I don't have to just rely on myself, right?
I think it's just the effort to keep us separate is a red flag for me. Why try so hard? Why try so hard? There must be a reason.
Somebody knows something I didn't know.
That's right. And you know what we don't know is that we're stronger together, because we have to grow up in a system of survival, which means, brother, I gotta get mine before you get yours. But it's not that way. It's not that way if we decide it's not that way. We can understand and take our L's and look at the environment and say our environment is oppressing us so much, and then lay down. Or we can get creative and say, you know what, I haven't tried sharing my feelings with my brother and seeing if he's going through that too, and saying this is how we can get through that together.
I think it's all of the above.
Yeah.
Right? I think we are strong individually. We are a community individually. Let me just say that, to the point you made earlier about it being our DNA. So before I knew you all, I was by myself, with my own mind, my own direction, navigation. And when I got together with you, something else evolved. I think we got to get the awareness that, like, where you are is your strength when it comes to resiliency, because I think that's the lost art. We think that we have to wait until we have to come together as a community to do something.
I gotta be great first.
See, and I think for our community, the word community is misleading. It just means that we have to do whatever, to your point, we have to do what everyone else is doing because they need that. You said it best. We don't need that. We know that, because I'm only sitting here however many 100 years later because someone said, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go, and I ain't got no blueprint and no roadmap.
Yeah.
Right? That's almost godlike, right?
Yeah. Fearless.
So resiliency comes from self-acceptance of where you're sitting in that imminence of resiliency alone first. Own that. Dare to connect it, though.
Absolutely.
Dare to connect it, because when I always use our platform as an actual object here. When you all say yes, we'll be a part of that. Me daring to ask you to be a part of that, something changed. And the evidence of that is today, literally. I went from thoughts and concepts that were churning in my mind to connecting them to you all, that you yielded to say, okay, something's here. I
didn't
feel
yield to
that.
anything. It's not how I operate. Yielding is not a thing that I do. It's just not. What actually happened on my end is we started talking, and I felt the need to continue that. And you said, let's do it this way. And I said, this will continue the talking, so I'll do it that way. There was no yield. It was more like
not
this
yielding.
It's not
So let me be clear.
work.
Not yielding in terms of you did something, I did something different than what we normally do. We have to understand, when we talk about resiliency, there's a thing happening without our permission. What you yielded to was a thing that you don't control. That's what we have to understand. That togetherness happens. I can say, you could say no, I can say no, we can say no collectively. What we yield to is that the mandate, we talked about an episode back. We yielded to knowing that I gotta do something with this.
Yeah.
Because
we do yield to that because
Yeah.
you didn't walk away.
Yeah.
You didn't say no. So that's my yield. It's bigger than us. It ain't just situational in terms of how do I feel. That's not how I work. It's like you feel that.
Yeah.
And when I think about our community in terms of being resilient as a people, I think it's our arrival of accepting our awareness that we're already great, to some of what you said earlier, and knowing that and being able to channel that to connect with each other. Like, it is what it is. It's all the above. We're great. We're inferior. We're lost. We're found. We've acquired ourselves. We are acquiring, trying to find our path, and trying to figure out what to do with all of that while trying to get somewhere. Because we're like the lost generation in motion. That's how I feel. Winning the future always, because the DNA part of we found ourselves finding ourselves on the road to finding ourselves.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? And that won't stop for us. I think as a people, we're going to be here until the world ends. We've been here in many ends. So resiliency for me, again, going back to all of that and connecting that, is really trying to figure out, do we want it? Do we want to? When you become knowledgeable about your power, the choices you make from that. Because when you recognize that you have power, you have decisions to make. And you have to do something with it, because that's the only reason why we're all sitting here right now. Someone decided to do something with their life that they saw that they had. I don't feel like no one in our community operates on autopilot. It's about a decision they're trying to make. It's about adversity they're trying to wean themselves off of or come away from, because we don't need certain things to survive. But I brought that up because it's like, at what point do we get it to be customary for things to be thought of for us, instead of having to break down bridges and walls and buildings to make it seem like, okay, I see what's happening, and you two too. When does it become normalized for there to be unanimous care for people? And maybe never.
You gotta start with us, though. See, a lot of what we're looking for is acceptance from another group.
Are we looking for acceptance?
Well, if we can use words like we're deficient, we're not deficient to ourselves. See, what we're deficient to is this understanding that we're American without the privilege and African without the history.
Say that one more time.
I got that from somewhere. I got
Say that again.
I got it
Don't
from
matter where you
somewhere.
got it from. You brought it to me as new knowledge right now. So.
Run that
Well,
back
because
to me
it's
one more
what it means, right? Because what you're harking at is that we have a experience that's just heavy as hell, right?
Wow.
And the words that I found in Facebook posts, something like that, is we are American without the privilege, African without the history.
Man.
And we got to figure out what to do about
What is
that.
that? Right.
That is us. That is me. That is me going through my day-to-day trying to figure out, how do I not get killed and make connections with folks who might think that I'm a threat. We talked about that in that episode a couple seasons ago too. One, I have to show y'all I'm not that threat you think. I'm actually a whole lot more well-rounded than you can imagine. Father, brother, all the things, right? All the things. But they don't see that of us. And they don't see that of us because with the images that are being put out there of us is not this, right? So that's why I was dedicated to CorNbReaD. The reason why I'm here is because I wish I would have saw something like this when I was younger. I would have made fewer mistakes. I wish somebody out there would see this, gain a couple of words they can say instead of gunfight, hand fights, and just keep moving forward. And that's what I'm talking about when I say resilience. Resilience is things get tough and I keep going the direction that I plan to go. We talked about triggers. Those things will sway you away from your goal. I can have a goal, you made me mad, and I can't persevere with my goal. Now I have to deal with the consequences of the action that I made when I was mad. And my dad told me one thing that has always stuck with me, and is mad is free. What you do when you're mad costs you.
Well.
And I say that shit in my head all the time. Mad is free. I can be mad. Everybody can be mad. Anybody can get mad at anything. So what? Mad is an emotion that you will have to go through and figure out how to deal with that before you express it. Because when you express it, it's costly. Folks will gain a perception of you. I'm a black man. It's costly for me to express anger. But anger fuels me to persevere. So how do I use my anger to keep going when the thing that's making me angry is the thing I have to get through? It's hard as hell to say this white man is in front of me and is stopping me from moving, but I have to figure out how to get through you without harming you. And figure out how to way to get through you without you thinking that I'm a threat, because you're going to spread that around.
Yeah.
Right? And then everybody think I'm a threat, and now everybody think y'all a threat because I'm a threat.
Yeah. Because
he thought I was a threat. But that's not the case. The case is actually I'm trying to provide for my family. You don't know that because you've been tempered by media and such. But what we're doing here, what we're doing with CorNbReaD is showing you a different side, showing you more things that you can probably gain an understanding of what we go through and how we sort through problems. And I didn't sort through problems this way before. I wasn't as resilient as I am now with you all, because now I have a new way to keep going. Hey bro, I need help painting my house. I got this big ass couch I can't do. I don't know how to do it. I could spend some money, or I could ask my community to help me out, to help us move forward, so we don't have to take the L. We know what that costs. I know how much it costs to move, to help people move. I get it. Can y'all help me avoid that cost? Don't we have a session about cost of change coming up?
That may be coming up.
Oh, community can help you avoid that cost, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we help ourselves first? You know, I'm always going to go back to the root of things, because even the root is discovery oriented, right? Because it's ever evolving and ever changing. Like with everything that we've discussed tonight so far, that's so big.
It is.
It's so culturally oriented. It still boils down to, how do I perceive my lens in the moment of all of that? And I think that's, you said something a while ago, that is our proof almost as people. Mm-hmm. With all of that, there's still movement. Mm-hmm. We get it done somehow. Mm-hmm. We are going to persist. Mm-hmm. But I think there's still some pain and passion behind the presence of all of that that has to be worked out.
We're supposed to accept that. Not accept it as in it won't change, but accept it and let it fuel us. And the resilience comes from understanding that wholly, that identity, that understanding, that environment. What is putting pressure on me, and what goals do I have for myself, and how will those pressures interfere, and how do I keep going to that goal? A good way is to talk to your brothers about it. Talk to your family about it. Last week we talked about the moms and those topics. Talk to your mom about it. Talk to people who care about you, about what you care about, and then you grow that way. That's how you build resilience. You can be great at managing your issues alone, but the wonders you can work with the group, the resiliency that you have with the group. Armies are groups, not individuals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know.
Let's get into some crumbs.
I mean, he just gave his crumbs.
I gave mine.
You've been dropping all season.
Man, I went on.
You still need some crumbs?
I'm done.
You've been dropping them all?
I'll give my crumbs.
And
I think you were talking about something that I can understand. And when it boils down to it, resiliency is about honoring patience. I think patience is the reason why we're still here, because we are aware that there's something waiting for us. It might not even be aligned to us, but we are to move forward. And I think as a people, that's what saves us. That's what our it factor is. Like, we know that some of us, or one of us, is going to be in tomorrow, because we're just made to be. We're made to be. So for me, if I can leave a crumb, it's really about honoring patience, learning how to wait well when you are dealing with the stubbornness of your own resiliency. You know, if you're a fire and brimstone type of person and you gotta go react, take a beat and think about your positioning and all the arms that are connected to that positioning, because again, the outcome may not be what you thought when you started. Or if you are dormant and trying to push your persistence forward and develop resiliency, ask yourself questions, I think, that make you go left and right and forward, so that way you can create a cadence that becomes normalized for you to be someone that is engaged. We all have a place, but that place is literally a lane of discovery in the unknown that we do have to yield to. Yeah. We do have to yield to that place, because only then will we have known, are we worth it? Or is this just a part of the plot?
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna pick up right where you left off. Resiliency being part of maturation of patience. You can't have patience without trial. They go hand in hand. The magnet of development of patience is trial, is the things that we go through, is the annoying things, is the frustrating things, is the things that you have to take a beat in. And so we have to accept the aspect of the fact that there will be suffering, right? There will be the tension, right? There will be heavy loads. There will be things that we have to carry. They are supposed to be there, right? They're not anomalies. They're supposed to be there, right? Because without them, the best of who you are, the power of resilience that is built under pressure will not come forth. Without pressure, without heat and pressure, you don't get a diamond. right? And so if you're going to be the best, if you're going to experience the power, you can have dreams, but that's just untapped potential. But if you're going to have true potential, true power, there has to be a force, right, that hits it and to cause it to be, right? And the trial you are sitting up under, the thing you are enduring is the force, right? And it is designed and divinely placed so that it can bring out the best that is actually on the inside of you. And that is the actual power of resistance. It is actually the trial. So the trial is actually assisting you as your friend, right? To get out of you what is down on the inside of you. And we have to embrace it. When we embrace it, we see the fruitfulness that is supposed to be. Well, that is the time that we have today. You go ahead and sit on that cornbread.
How do we be resilient? Eat more cornbread.
Eat more cornbread. Eat more cornbread. Literally. Okay, eat more cornbread. Thank you guys for tuning in. So listen, subscribe. Okay, stop playing. Go ahead and subscribe.
Go get the hands and talk about.
I'm just saying. Subscribe to our YouTube. Eat more cornbread. Go to IG. Follow us on IG and Facebook. Eat more cornbread. Leave some feedback at the website, eatmorecornbread.com. Listen, we out. Okay.
We out.